And boom, we should be live right now. So hello, I'm Ludwig and this is SQL Bootcamp Online. This is not a 2-minute SQL series when we are addressing the most common issues and questions regarding SQL Server in Azure, but today we're talking about way more important subject, and the subject of the day is whether the indexes matter. And in this extremely simple and straight to the point demo, I want to show you why they do. So let me just jump straight to my little Azure Data Studio in here, and I popped up the AdventureWorks database. So this is one of the most common database that you'll see on basically any Microsoft course. If you ever signed up for one, and I'm not talking about the prerequisites in here. Now this is very important. Now in every video on this YouTube channel, I'm recommending that you subscribe to this YouTube channel in order to see all of the rest of the videos, because in the rest of the videos I'm covering subjects on how to get the free Azure subscriptions. For example, if you're learning how to get the Azure SQL Server, Azure SQL database, how to install that, how to connect that, how to whitelist your RP, all of those subjects are already covered in all of the rest of those videos. So again, do not forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and go through all of those videos, because right now what I want to show is that in here I do see that I have my sales customer database, and from that sales customer database I'm just going to, I didn't want to go there, so let me just close this notebook in here. I don't want to say that. I just want to run a simplest query ever, which is select star from sales LT customer, and boom, I get all of the information from my table. You can see that I have customer IDs, names, styles, titles, first name, middle names, last names, blah, blah, all of the rest of the information that I have in here about my customers. Now, whenever I want to see what's going on in the underlying, what's the underlying work that SQL Server will perform, is I can always either see the estimated plan on what SQL plans to do in order to answer my query, or to include the actual plan, which basically means that once this query will run, I want to also see what it really did. Now, again, in the other video on this channel, you will see what is the difference between index scan and index seek, and this is extremely important that you went and seen that video first. I don't know if I can do that on the mobile app, but here should be a link to that video. But again, we are aiming for an index seek in here, right? So I want to look for that data. Now again, of course, since we are working on a select star from table, I will have all of that information there. But let's assume, for the sake of example, that I just want to call all of those people that I'm looking for. So let's say that based on the number of columns that I have in here, let's say that I'll be looking only for the last name of those folks and maybe their phone numbers. Right, so last name and the phone number from that table, and ta-dam, again, I turned on to the actual plan. I'll walk you through it in just a moment, but you can see that right now in here, if I'll select this query and run it, you can see that I only have their last names and their phones. That's great. I can just pick up the phone and say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. G. I don't really know whether they are Mr. or Mrs. We'll get there in just a moment. So what I want to do is I want to see what SQL Server is doing when it is finding that information. Well, since I'm asking for all of that info, I'll just include the actual execution plan in here, right? So I'm just saying, hey, include the actual plan. Once I click that, or then it'll turn into the exclude actual plan, which is the action that will be performed. So again, I'll just run this query with the plan included, ta-dam, and I'll see that it performed the index scan. You already know that it means that it went through the entire table, right? Now, what I want to do is, let's say that I want to add a simple where. So I only want to see the guys where the last name is equal to Miller. Ta-dam. I should limit the number of my results from everyone to just the Millers. So I'll run it, ta-dam, and you can see that not only I still have the index scan, so I need to go through every single page one by one, But then on top of that, Azure Data Studio and SSMS would do the very same thing for you, would tell you, hey, there is a missing index that have 87% impact on that query, all right? So if I'll go to the top operations, you will see that the current execution cost for CPU and for the IO, so the input output, is 001 and 028. Now, again, without going into the details, because I'll have the separate video on that, I'll just type in that the CPU cost right now is 0.01, and then I'll just type in the entire thing, 0887, and then our IO cost, so input output, is 0.0283102. All right, so these are my costs. All right, now what I want to do, since I already got the information that there is a missing index, I want to build that index. All right, so what I want to do right now is I may either use that that recommendation. I just clicked on that. I will remove all of the comments in here. Ta-dam, boom, and using my SQL Bootcamp database, so the one that I'm using right now, I want to create a non-clustered index with the name of the missing index that will be IX, let's say my first index ever. Boom. On the sales customer, and in that table, I just want to use the last name column. All right, just like that, okay? So I want to create an index only on that column. Now, if I'll run this command, boom, ta-da, you can see that it went fine. What I want to do right now is I want to run the very same query. Ta-da, perfect. You see that it still tells me that it performed the index scan. You will see that in the top operations, my costs are still the same, right? Because this query was already cached. But what would happen if, boom, I would go here, refresh my indexes. You can see that my first index ever is already created in here. And I would drop that index and I would say, hey, since whoever is searching for that data, regardless whether these are ad hoc queries or this is what my app generates, because my users using my app, they're just picking up the phone for the particular name, they're calling all of those folks. What I want to do right now is I want to create that index again, boom, and I want to create that index. I had that index in here already, so I wouldn't have to type that. Here we go. So I want to create that index on the last name column, but also on the phone column, because these are two queries or two columns that I'll be referring to the most often. These are the only ones that you'll be referring to in my queries. So I'll create my index again. It can have the same name. So what I'll do right now, I'll run the very same query. And again, you see that my costs are 001 and 002. So I'll run this query again right now, having an index, and look what happened. I do not have the index scan anymore. I have the index seek. So I'm looking for the proper data. Now, let me take a look at my top operations and let's compare those costs. You can see that the CPU cost right now is not 001 anymore, it's 0.001. So it's 1/100th or 1/10 of the cost. How about the IO cost? Again, instead of 0.002, I have 0.00315. So as you can see, those costs are divided by indeed, or we went down 90% with the costs of running this query, all right? This is why the answer to this question, do indexes matter? They do. Now, again, please don't make the mistake of saying, hey, I just want to create an index and that will be perfectly fine because I just created one index, right? What if, again, you see that right now I do have my index 6. What if someone says, hey, I do want to have their title as well, all right? So title, no, it's not called title, it's called title. title, last name, phone. So I want to address them, whether this is Miss Miller or Mrs. Miller or maybe Mr. Miller, right? I already have the index. I just added another column. I hit run, and guess what? I'm back in square one. I'm on my index scan again, because though this additional column, the title column, was not included in my index definition, all right? So this is something worth remembering, and this is why those very simple techniques, as for example indexing, they do matter so much. And without the comprehension, without the understanding, complete understanding of how indexes work, your databases will never be 100% optimized. So again, yes, indexes do matter, but this is extremely important subject that I'll have the entire series on here on SQL Bootcamp Online. So don't forget to subscribe to that channel. And well, yeah, as usual, thank you very much for this, for your attention. As usual, here's the video, here's the subscribe button. See you on the next episode.